Welcome to the Sun today for the 19th of January 2022. Today's story is about Aurora and the geomagnetic storms that cause them. This is the Sunspot dashboard that I posted on my Twitter account today, showing what's basically going on. We've had a continuation of the geomagnetic storms reaching a G2 event early this morning. The sunspot number is continuing to fall and will likely fall some more in the next few days, as some of the sunspot regions shown here on the right hand side of the sun rotate over the west limb and become invisible, and it doesn't look as though there's many big regions coming up. We're still dealing with the after effects of the M1.5 flare that we had yesterday. Again, when talking about sunspots, I'm going to use the sunspot classification system. Alpha are unipolar spots, beta are bipolar spots, gammas are complicated spots with mixed polarities, beta gammas are bipolar with a neutral line that is too complicated to generally identify, and delta spots are ones that have two large sunspots in the same penumbra and are threatening major flares as a result. And there's various combinations and permutations of these. Now let's take a look at the individual sunspot regions, and overall there's been some decay in the regions because of the sunspot number is dropping. We'll start with the numbered regions in order. The oldest of these regions is 2927, and it's here in the southwest quadrant of the sun and will only be with us for 2 or 3 more days. I counted 3 spots in this region the first thing this morning. Next, region 2929, the one that produced the M flare yesterday. I saw 3 spots in this region, and it's a beta configuration. Next is region 2930. I counted 10 spots here, 2 large ones and some satellite spots between the 2 of them, but this is also counted as a beta region. Then there is this faint patch of sunspots just in the northeast region of the sun. You can see a few of them here. I counted 11 spots in total, but there seems to be an increase over yesterday, but they're very weak, very faint spots, and I'm not sure how long they're going to last. In fact, they've lasted longer than I thought they would already. And lastly, in the numbered regions, there's 2932 is down here in the southwest. It's the largest region we have on the sun at the moment, with 25 spots, and it is also a beta region. Now, 2 of the 3 new sunspot regions that I saw earlier this morning have already disappeared. They were very weak and obviously didn't last very long. We have this one of the ones I saw this morning is still there. That's the one in the northwest near the limb. You can see it here. So that's a new region that may be numbered, it may not, depends on whether it develops or not in the next few days. Well, the sun taketh away, the sun also giveth. Though 2 of my regions that I saw this morning had disappeared, a new one had appeared over the southeast limb, and it's quite a large spot. You can see it here on the right. This is the official daily sunspot number from the Solar Influences Data Center in Belgium, and you can see it has fallen significantly from the last few days, and quite a lot since the equivalent time during the last rotation. However, the average sunspot number for the month is still well above 50 and will likely be somewhere between 40 and 50 by the end of the month, which is quite a healthy sunspot number for this time of the cycle. Using helioseismology, that's studying the vibrational state of the sun, we get some idea of what's going on the back of the sun, even though we can't see it. In the top picture, you see there's a large structure about a week behind the east limb. Now, this could well be a large sunspot group, and we'll see what it'll be like when it comes over the east limb. The bottom picture shows shadows of magnetic fields on the far side of the sun, either at the surface or just below, and we can see 2 obvious areas where there seems to be sunspot. The one circled at the bottom right here is probably that large sunspot region that we just saw in the SDO data. But that means there's another one just to the north and east of that in the northern hemisphere that is likely to be here within a week or so. And so we've got something fairly large coming our way. Whether it's either an old region or a brand new region, we'll have to wait and see. The X-ray flux, which is a measure of the level of activity in the sun, has been fairly stable since the M flare of yesterday. Well, let's look at some movies. We'll start with the Solar Dynamics Observatory HMI instrument and look at sunspot movies. We'll do 2 repeats of those. And this should show the development of sunspots over that period of time. Next, we'll take a look at the 94 angstrom channel from the AIA instrument, which will show us flares because it has an average temperature of about 6 million degrees Kelvin. Last we will take a look at the Soho-Lasco coronagraph. The C2 and C3 instruments show us large fields of view and look at the status of the corona a long way away from the sun. Mainly what we're looking for here are coronal mass ejections. These are massive eruptions of material away from the sun. The solar wind is acting rather strangely. The BZ component, the vertical component of the interplanetary magnetic field, the component that reconnects with the Earth's magnetosphere, is near zero, so is unlikely to do so. However, density and temperature are bouncing around in rather odd ways that I frankly don't understand. And the speed of the solar wind has now reached nearly 700 kilometers per second, which is unusually rapid for the solar wind. GEOSPACE has been very active over the last few days. You can see we've had 4 geomagnetic storms, 2 of which have been G2 storms, and quite a lot of unsettled magnetosphere in between. Those are the yellow areas, and even the daily averages are fairly high at about 3. Well, did that M flare produce a coronal mass ejection? Well, it seems to have done, and if you look at the models, they should be arriving in the next 2 or 3 days. The Earth is the green dot in this image, and you can see here comes the CME in the upper right image towards the Earth. Well, let's take a look at geospace activity. First of all, we'll look at the velocity of the solar wind and how it's interacting with the Earth. Next, we'll do the same thing, but with the density. And lastly, we'll look at the pressure. The Aurora forecast from NOAA shows that we should be expecting some nice aurora at high latitudes from these events. How long this will continue, I have not yet got an estimate. However, here are some examples of what's been seen in the last couple of days or so from these events, and it's quite spectacular. What conclusions can we draw from all of this? Well, the sunspot number is beginning to decline from the very high levels of last month, but that's to be expected at this stage of the cycle. Region 2929 produced an M1.5 flare, which also produced a coronal mass ejection, which we might expect in the next couple of days. So until next time, stay safe and goodbye.